Hey, Section 112, it's Mrs. Smith. This is our Week 12 lecture on analyzing multimodal text, and I'm also going to be assigning your final project for the course, which is the public turn. First, a couple of announcements. I wanted to remind you that you do have to complete all of the work listed in the new syllabus to receive an A, including the small weekly assignments. If you don't complete all the work, you won't get an A. But if you've already forgotten something from a past week, I will still accept that work. You also have many other grading options. So Monday, April 6th, which is probably the day you're going to be watching this, is the last day to drop without a W or a WF. And also at the end of the course, you're going to be allowed to choose a pass-fail option if you don't like your letter grade. That is a university-wide option for every class. Let me know if you have questions about it. Okay, I thought that your chapter on non-written text and how to analyze performance was pretty self-explanatory. So I'm just going to go through and give you a few examples. Really, all I want you to know is that so far in the course, we've really considered written rhetoric. So I've been telling you what to do with words to write your essay. But in the public turn, you're going to be required to do something without words to communicate your thesis. So we need to talk about what it means to make an argument without words. I've told you this before, but really everything has an argument. Everything's rhetoric. Fashion is rhetoric, body language is rhetoric, paintings, photographs, visual art, all of those things contain arguments within them, even if they're simple. So my first example is fashion or costuming. I chose the show Killing Eve as an example. I don't know if you've seen it. It's pretty good, but one of the main characters is a hit woman or a contract killer, but maybe also a serial killer. That's not a spoiler. That's all in like the first episode. Her name is Villanelle. Villanelle dresses differently depending on how she wants her clients and her victims or whoever she's dealing with to see her. She's really mastered the art of disguise, but also the art of projecting your own personality through your clothes. As an example, I wanted to show you these two outfits from different episodes. Obviously, in the one on the left, she's trying to project something about her identity as a professional. She's also trying to project some reference to her wealth. She's also wearing designer clothes and wearing an interesting pattern in a traditional cut to make sure that her audience knows that even though she is wearing what she has to for work, she still has a personality. In the one on the right, she's wearing this dress, one, because she really, really likes it. It's communicated through the show that she likes it. But two, because she's kind of in trouble with her employers and she wants to project the idea of innocence. So between these two pictures, you can see that there are some similarities that show her character, but you can also see that part of her character is being kind of mutable or changeable so that she can project the parts of her personality that are most useful to her at the time. Everyone does this all the time, whether they know it or not. Another example is visual art. It's probably the one that you interact with the most commonly. Visual art can include paintings, CGI, architecture, some animated shows, and just really anything that you take in visually rather than reading it. Sometimes the style of art's chosen for political reasons, sometimes ideological reasons, sometimes aesthetic reasons, sometimes it's all of those things. But when you look at a piece of art, you need to first keep in mind how it makes you feel, what it reminds you of, what your brain immediately starts comparing it to, but then the color scheme, the mood, the size of the objects, their relationship to realism, all of those things can be part of a non-written argument. So as an example, I've got these two paintings, which were obviously done hundreds of years apart, but I thought it was interesting to show you two paintings that are technically about the same thing. One's called A Woman Weeping, and one's called The Weeping Woman. clearly they use very different styles. And so when you look at them, you can judge how the style faithfully or unfaithfully reflects the actual subject, what it might mean. And also what these two styles reflect about the artist and the time period that it was done in. My next example is photography. I think photography is interesting because it's often perceived as like an immediate reflection of real life. Like, oh, you just take a picture of whatever's there. It's automatically very true, but photography can be deceptive. Obviously, if you have an Instagram account, you know this. Skilled photographers can use editing, framing, angles, and lighting to tell a story with their work instead of just snapping a picture of whatever's in front of them. So I wanted to show you these photographs to see if you can see what the photographer wants the viewer to feel or understand. These shots were taken by different photographers, but you can see that they've focused on very different things about the ocean, and the viewer feels very differently about these things. So in the photo on the left, you're probably disgusted, worried about that amount of trash in the ocean, whereas the image on the right kind of evokes awe and amazement at nature. Everything looks clean and beautiful. So I think these photographs work together really well to show how if we love the photograph on the right, if we think it's beautiful, then we need to address the photograph on the left to keep it that way. And when you make your own argument in your public turn, you are allowed to create a sort of photo series like this that visually portrays an argument. My last example is for our discussion board post. I think music videos are really the perfect way to study multimodality, and if we were together, we would be watching a lot of them right now and having a lot of fun with it. But they have visual art, they have costuming, they have dancing, movement, lyrics. They really just have everything that could possibly contain any rhetoric. So I want you to watch the video I've linked above because it's my choice for the discussion board post, and see if you can see those elements kind of coming together to express something about the artist. You can either click this link from the slides, or you can just look up Beyonce's Hold Up video. Some of you may have already seen it. It's the one where she wears that yellow dress and bashes all that stuff in with a baseball bat. So when I write my discussion post for this song, after you've seen the video, you'll notice a couple of the things that I've noticed as well. I'm going to focus on the following elements. I'm going to focus on the poetry at the beginning and how it's different from music. I'm going to focus on the imagery of drowning and floating and what that might mean. I'm going to focus on the changes in color schemes and then the reaction of the main character's community or the people around her to her behavior. So none of these are written except for maybe poetry, but I'm not talking about the actual words of the poetry. I'm talking about the choice to begin with poetry and then switch to a song with music behind it. For the discussion board, you're going to do pretty much the exact same thing. I want you to share a link to your favorite music video and tell us using details from the music and the visual art what the video means to you. Remember that it should be your favorite music video, not your favorite song. Sometimes those are different. And that you should be focused on the actual video and not the lyrics to the song.